Tell us what you think. In person, over the phone, online. Watch and hear yourself on TV. You tell us, we air it. This is The Local Live.
Hello, I'm Erica Lynn.
And I'm Anthony Carlo.
Welcome to The Local Live, the only community news show in Larchmont and Mamaroneck.
We are here every Thursday night to tell you what happened in our community this week.
Let's not waste time since we have a lot for you in store this evening. Let's take a look at tonight's rundown.
One Book, One Mamaroneck is taking place for the entire month of October. Later on, our guests Susan Riley and Laura Eckley will tell us more about it in our special roundtable segment with Mike Witch.
What were the highlights of Mamaroneck School Board working session?
The League of Women Voters held a debate for the upcoming elections. More information on that coming up.
And while you're with us, you definitely don't want to miss our LMC Varsity Sports Play of the Week. Stay tuned.
How many pumpkins arrived to St. Thomas Church? Take a guess now or wait to see our special coverage of the 14th annual Pumpkin Patch celebration.
Are residents of Village of Mamaroneck ready to vote? Michael Chandra went to Mamaroneck Ave for answers.
And before we go, you'll get to meet Winston, this week's Pet of the Week. Learn how you can give him a loving home later tonight.
On October 7th, the Mamaroneck School Board of Education held a working session focusing on the 2014 student achievement.
The highlight of the night was happily announced by Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Annie Ward.
We're very proud of this significant first bullet here, which is in 2014, district-wide, our proficiency percentages exceeded the counties by more than 20% on every test at every grade level. So that's ELA 3 through 8, Math 3 through 8, with one exception where we missed it by a hair, which was the 8th grade ELA, where our proficiency exceeded the counties by 19%.
Election season is heating up with contestants in Mamaroneck Village for trustees and New York State Senate in the 37th District. To help voters decide, the Larchmont Mamaroneck League of Women Voters held a debate at the town courtroom on Wednesday. Watch the debate at lmctv.org. And now let's have a look at what's happening this week in the media.
Topping the charts this week, a string of eye burglaries has town of Mamaroneck residents on alert. The Loop, News 12, and the Mamaroneck Daily Voice all report home thefts of electronic devices in the Larchmont Woods area as well as New Rochelle. Village of Mamaroneck officials warn the public of a possible scam, says the Mamaroneck Daily Voice. Officials say strangers are walking around village neighborhoods falsely telling residents that the village has plans to take private property by eminent domain in order to facilitate private development. No info on whether they're asking residents for money. Mamaroneck's Murphy Brothers Contracting is now officially Westchester Green Business Certified, reports the Daily Voice. This initiative is intended to help Westchester organizations go green, save money, and improve performance. According to the patch, Pulitzer Prize-winning author Sonia Nazario is coming to speak at Mamaroneck High School this month. Nazario's book, Enrique's Journey, chronicles a boy's venture from Honduras to the United States in search of his mother. The talk on October 14th at 7 p.m. is open to the community. The Mamaroneck Review reports on 2 changes adopted by the Village of Mamaroneck trustees. At village board meetings, the public comment period will now be held towards the end of the meeting, and village notices will be issued in English and Spanish. Find out why not everyone is pleased in the review. And Ice Ice Baby, Hommocks Park Ice Rink is open for business. Skating season began October 5th, but the real event in the Hamlet Hub is the October 19th ribbon-cutting ceremony and reopening following the Capitol renovations. And that's what's in the media this week. I'm Maura Carlin.
Hello, Mamaroneck. I'm Carly Rose, and Good evening. My goal in writing this book was to raise my voice on behalf of the millions of girls around the world who are being denied the right to go to school and realize their potential. I hope my story will inspire girls to raise their voices and embrace the power within themselves, but my mission does not end there. I am reading from I Am Malala, and it is the subject of tonight's roundtable. We are live. My name is Michael Witch, and I am here with two guests, Susan Riley, who is the director of Mamaroneck Library,
Welcome.
and Laura Eckley, who is the director of Larchmont Library. And they have selected I Am Malala as the first book in a new program called One Book, One Mamaroneck. And we're here to talk about that. And as always, you can call in with your questions or your comments. The number that you can call or email will be on the bottom of the screen throughout this live portion of our show. So welcome. Thank you for spending some time with us.
Thanks for asking us to come.
This is quite a project. Susan, I understand that you were the one that came up with the idea.
Yes, there's such a thing as called a big read, and some libraries throughout the country do this. They get the entire community together to read one book and enter into conversations about the book. And very often it's a classic type of a book, such as To Kill a Mockingbird or something along those lines. But when I was trying to think about what kind of a book would be appropriate for our community, which is such a well-educated, artsy community, very diverse, and I was casting about trying to think of what would be the best book to select for this. And as I started thinking about the pros and the cons of various authors or various titles, there were a lot of things that emerged, such as we wanted to appeal to a variety of groups. So it wouldn't just be, say, teenagers who would enjoy a particular book. It would also be adults or even children. And people bring different things to different books. So I spoke with Laura, my colleague. We've been friends for a long time and co-workers for quite a while. And we selected I Am Malala because of the themes that we felt were important to this community.
Well, I read the book. It's a fascinating story.
Yes.
Sad story,
Yes.
but yet there's a lot of hope in it. And I would call it not a difficult read, it's kind of a quick read. So I can understand how it would be a good choice for younger students as well as older folks.
There's also a young reader's edition of the book.
And there's an audio edition of this as
yes,
well.
there is, yeah.
So this book obviously touched you in many ways. Can you talk about some of the ways that it affected you?
When I was growing up, my dad was very, very big on education. He pushed us all. We grew up knowing that we would go to college and that we would probably go beyond college in order to be successful financially in this world, in New York. You know, it's an expensive place to live. When I heard about this girl, Malala, who was being denied an education, it really spoke to me personally. And so I decided to read the book and became very involved in her life.
Well, she made headlines in the U.S.
Yes.
Because she spoke out for education. She spoke out for girls in particular, and then she was targeted by the Taliban, and they did attempt to assassinate her.
Yes.
And she recovered.
2 years ago today.
This is the 2-year anniversary of the day that she was shot,
That's
October
right.
9th, 2012.
That's right.
Yeah. And Laura, you were in on the planning of all of
Yes.
these events?
Yes, well, the planning started about a year ago. That was when Susan first approached me about doing a community read for our entire community. And we sort of struggled with what to call the program, and we ended up calling it One Book, One Mamaroneck, because it's just a nice way of reminding all of us, we have the village of Larchmont, the village of Mamaroneck, the unincorporated town of Mamaroneck. We really are one community, and it's just a nice way to focus on that. So we started out with an idea that Susan had to do this big read. And she found the book, which was great. It was just a sort of an inspired choice because it speaks to so many different topics. And then we put together a committee of different people in the organization that in the community that represent different organizations. And we had a lot of brainstorming sessions last winter and last spring, and it just sort of started to come together. Different organizations came forward and said that they would hold events, and the variety of events that we're having is amazing. We have about 15 organizations involved, and all different
We'll
speakers.
talk about that, and I just wanted to mention that the title, One Book, One Mamaroneck, kind of echoes a line in the book, one child, one teacher, one book, one pen can change the world. One of the themes of the book, and those are Malala's words. And she spoke to the United Nations, and you had an advisory committee that worked with you on this, and you were telling me that one member of the committee heard her speak at the UN.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Joan Caton, who is on our committee and is a professor at Pace, and she's also going to be the moderator for one of our programs at the end of the month. And she had the opportunity to go to the UN and hear Malala speak, and just sort of came back to our next committee meeting really brimming over with enthusiasm and just joy at having been able to hear her speak. And the thing that she was so overwhelmed by is how poised and thoughtful and just articulate this young woman is.
And is she 15 or now? She must have turned 16.
I think she's 17 at this point, isn't she?
16 or 17.
Yeah.
And she and her family are still living in Birmingham, England.
Yes.
And they may never be able to go back to their homeland.
Yeah, and I think it comes out in the book that Malala's very sad about that. She has such a strong tie to the Swat Valley in Pakistan and would love to be able to go back there, and it's doubtful whether she really will be able to ever go back.
There's a very strong religious theme. She is a very religious young woman.
Yes.
As is her family, but I think she more than her family.
I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
certainly she is. Yeah.
And has there been a organization in the community that has decided to talk about the religious aspect of this?
Actually, the Hadassah is going to be having a program, and let me just get the correct date. I don't want to give you the wrong information. On Wednesday, October 29th at 7 p.m. at the Mamaroneck Library, there'll be a program called 3 Viewpoints, the Literary, Sociological, and Jewish Perspective on this book. So, and people who are interested should contact Fern Tannenbaum for this.
Okay. Do you have a number or a website or email for Fern?
Her email is, I'm going to spell it.
Go ahead.
regordcaf@aol.com. But you can pick up one of these flyers at either library, and it gives all the contact information for the various programs.
And is that information also online?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, on both websites, the Mamaroneck Library and the Larchmont Library.
Okay. Now, you've already had two events that have...
We've had several events already. Yeah.
Do you want to mention them?
Well, why don't you talk about the Rotary event first?
Okay.
The Larchmont Rotary Club had a luncheon last Friday at the Larchmont Yacht Club. There were about 50 people there. And they had a speaker, Joseph Lorraine, who is the Rotary International liaison to the United Nations. And he came and spoke on human rights issues for women and children, both internationally and domestically, and what Rotary and the UN is doing to try to highlight some of these issues. And it was very well attended by Rotarians. We also had some members of the community, but it was very interesting to see people from all over the county that are involved in Rotary coming to basically a Mamaroneck Larchmont event. It's a nice way of bringing other people into it. And that's the kind of thing that we're seeing in all of these programs, that it's great that members of the community can come, but they're also, they're pulling in not just their members, but members from the community, and it's sort of helping, it's connecting people.
Which is one of your,
one
or
of the
is the
goals,
primary
right.
goal.
Yes,
Not
absolutely.
only to read a good book, but also to have some sharing of ideas and bringing together people from Rhinebeck who may not have been to Larchmont, as crazy as that may sound, it happens, and then just seeing what makes one community. Yeah.
There was also the Larchmont Mamaroneck Interfaith Council has already met. on September 11th, and they actually had a speaker, Dr. Hassan, spoke about the Interfaith Council and about how this book relates to their purpose. Also, at the Mamaroneck Library, one of our librarians went out and met with all the Girl Scout leaders in the area and presented the book to them, discussed the themes in the book, and how they can use this book with their own troops and their own girls. So it's spreading out, as you said.
And I asked you before we started whether there was any news from the schools, their involvement, and you said there was, but
yes, I don't know. Laura, talk about that.
Okay, we'll talk about that right now.
She had the big contact.
A very exciting development. We met with Principal Klain and Annie Ward, who's the superintendent of curriculum, as well as the high school librarian and the head of the English department. They are very excited about this program. They have 40 copies of the book available in the school. The English teachers are going to be book talking it and encouraging the kids to use it as outside reading. Principal Klain is having a book group for people that are interested in being in a book group. She's going to have it at lunchtime during the month of October. And then on November 3rd, they have a speaker, Judy Klain, who is the editor-in-chief at Little Brown, which is the publisher of
Same
I Am
last name?
Malala. Yes,
Okay.
cousins.
Take advantage of those family connections.
That's right.
Yes.
And she was very involved in the editing of I Am Malala and in the production of it, and has heard Malala speak and has in fact even interviewed her. So she'll be speaking on November 3rd at a student assembly.
That's great.
It's really great.
Yeah, that is great news. And then tomorrow there's an event with the League of Women Voters.
Yes.
That's right, right. And
What's
that's actually at the Nautilus Diner. It's a breakfast. Okay, and they are going to be, an attorney is going to be talking about the United Nations and the Red Cross and how they work in conflict areas around the world, and particularly dealing with people with clear needs, especially girls and women, and how we can support them.
And then Saturday there's an event, there's a film
Yes.
being shown. I think it's in your library,
It's at the
right, Laura?
Larchmont Library at 4 o'clock. You can come at 3:30 for refreshments. And we're showing Girl Rising, which is a film about 8 young women in developing nations and what they have to do to get an education. And it follows them a little bit and shows the struggles that they have in getting a basic education. And the film is going to be reshown at the Mamaroneck Library
Right.
later in the month.
And that will be October 27th at 2 p.m. I'm sorry, at 11 a.m.
Okay, is that in the program or is that an
No, that's
add-on?
an add-on. There are
Okay.
a few add-ons, last-minute add-ons.
I see that the summit, the local summit, is taking up the topic on Tuesday, October 21st.
Yes.
That will also, is that at the, no, it's back at the Nautilus? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
And Nicole Scheinlin is going to head that program or speak at that program.
That's right. That's right.
She's been on this show before.
Oh, okay.
And then October 25th, there's something at the Mamaroneck Library in the community room called Empowering the World's Women. You've got a number of speakers.
Well,
coming
Joan
in.
Caton is going to be the moderator. Joan is just a brilliant, brilliant woman, and we're so delighted that she stepped on board for these programs. And the panel will basically be talking about Islam and how it differs from the goals of the Taliban and its impact on women.
That's very important because I think these days in the media you can't help but see an association between violence and Islam, and
Yes.
it's not, it's a misinterpretation of Islam, as those of us who read more deeply beside just the headlines know full well.
Yes.
And then there's something that goes beyond our community. It's at the YWCA, I believe, in White Plains.
Yes, we actually, we were very fortunate to be able to work with them on this program, but they've actually taken over the program, and it's, you know, it's going to be wonderful. So, but I can't speak too closely to the topics that they're going to be addressing. Joan Caton will be involved in that as well.
Okay, and then you have a number of book groups that have are using the book for selection, for discussion.
Yes.
And it's, wow, the 15th, the 17th, the 18th, the 21st. I mean, the dates are just coming up one after the other, and a number of book groups have selected it.
They have, and we both have programs at our libraries that are open to the public, and there are a number of book groups that have opened up their book groups to anyone that wants to read the book and talk about it with them. But in addition to what's listed as being open to the public, many book groups that are private are reading it as well.
Yes.
So is it too early to predict that your goal of bringing the community together and sharing ideas has been realized?
Oh, I hope not.
It sure sounds that way. I mean, just judging from this.
I think it's really been instrumental in pulling together some of the various very influential committees and groups that work in Mamaroneck and Larchmont, and having everybody focus on an aspect or a theme in the book. You know, so we're very excited about it. And one late addition is that there's going to be an essay contest for the students, middle school and high school students, and they should go to their high school or their middle school and inquire about this. There's a cash prize. So it's.
Can you reveal who's sponsoring that?
That is the
essay
League
contest?
of League of Women Voters is sponsoring it. We're very thankful. Beth Radow was instrumental in pulling this essay contest together, and students will have a choice of 3 different topics to write on, and it's a 250-word essay or thereabouts. And Laura and I are going to be looking at all the submissions. And
You are the judges?
yes.
And Beth as well.
And Beth, yes, yeah.
Okay.
So that's exciting as well.
Is the League one of the sponsoring organizations or
Yes,
or
it is.
participating organizations? What are the others?
Well, let's see. We have, well, the League of Women Voters, of course, and then the Summit is involved. In addition, there is the Larchmont Mamaroneck Interfaith Council. Okay, so the Hadassah is involved. So there's a number of organizations. The Girl Scouts are involved. The schools are involved.
At Home on the Sound.
That's right.
Home on the
Oh, I
Sound,
forgot
and
about
the
that one.
Rotary we
Yes.
mentioned already.
Yes.
And both of
Sure.
our friends' organizations.
Yes.
And you have companies that have sponsored
Yes.
or are sponsoring this. Is this a big, expensive thing to do, or?
Well, the costs are not enormous,
Yeah.
but even just printing up these event guides and distributing them, and the posters that we have, and the refreshments that we'll be serving, and all that, it adds up, you know, for a library's budget. And so we're very, very grateful to the sponsors, in particular the Friends of the Mamaroneck Library and the Friends of the Larchmont Library have been very, very supportive towards this and have donated funds to help us promote the events that are happening.
Good. Is there any other company you'd like to acknowledge?
Well, the Hachette is the parent company for Little Brown,
Okay.
and Little Brown is the actual publisher of the book. And they donated several boxes of books and books on CD to us, and they've been very helpful as well, just giving us additional information and things like that to help us out.
And I had mentioned at the top of our segment here that you have an advisory council. Who are some of the people on the council, and what have they contributed, if you'd like to mention a few?
Absolutely. So Susan and myself, and then a number of employees of our libraries. Lori Friedel, who's the head of adult services at Mamaroneck Library, has been wonderfully instrumental in setting up quite a few of the programs. Jeff Colquitt, who does publicity for the Larchmont Library, has just done an amazing job of making a great cohesive campaign for us. And then we also were very fortunate to have Sunny Goldberg, who LMC TV knows very well, involved.
Oh, yes. We know Sunny.
And Beth Radow from the League of Women Voters, as well as Joan Caton, who's going to be one of our moderators for the panel, Carolyn Pomerantz, Mary Lee Berridge, Elaine Chapnick, and Judy Rosner.
We've got a couple questions that have come in.
Okay.
I'm sort of doing double duty here, checking the social media. One question is, do you think there is Islamophobia in our community? And will reading this book, let me finish that, bring it up or help to get rid of it, help to dispel it? Have you seen any evidence of that?
I have not seen any evidence of Islamophobia while putting together this program, and I think the goal of it is to educate people on what Islam really is and what this religion really says about women, as opposed to what we see so often being manipulated in the media.
I think the book also makes very clear the difference between believing in Islam as a religion and the difference between that and the Taliban. You know, so I think that people will get an indirect education about those topics when they read the book.
And I know from my personal experience with the book that you also learn an awful lot about life in Pakistan.
Yes.
Even the history of how Pakistan was came into being, 1947. Yeah.
Right.
There's another question that came in. Maybe we can sneak this in. Does everybody have trouble with these screens, or is it just me? I think I read it.
Is your hand warm enough?
Other books that you are considering for this One Book, One Mamaroneck? Are you?
You mean for next year, or are you?
Whenever.
Well, we want to see how this all goes first before we decide to replicate the program next year. But, you know, as it starts out, we've certainly seen a lot of interest in it, and we're hoping that that will continue through the month. And then we can evaluate the program and decide whether to do it again next year. We would probably select a different type of a book, just to be different.
Because it is a lot of work, and it does sort of take up a lot of time. Some communities that do big reads will do it every other year or every 3 years. And that one of the types of books that Susan and I had originally been discussing before hitting on I Am Malala was a book either written by a local author or that deals with sort of local, you know, something in Lower Westchester, or maybe about the Sound Shore, or a local history topic. I think it's going to be hard to find another book that brings so many different topics out. I mean, what was so great about I Am Malala is that there was just a multitude of topics that different organizations could focus on it, and pull in a speaker on it, on, you know, just a variety of different themes. And the book itself meant something different to everyone that read it.
Yeah, to me, it was the education, the women's rights, and the goal to be an educated individual. I mean, studies all across America have shown that the biggest influence on a child's success is the education level of his or her mother. So, I mean, this is incredibly important, and I see that reflected in our community. I see you know, people who are very anxious for their children to do well. They pay a lot of money for the school budget every year because it's so important to them that their children will succeed. You know, whereas maybe a history class might look at the book and talk about the history of Pakistan, or a group of college students studying religion might focus more on the religious aspects.
Or activism.
That's right.
And I'm sorry, at this point we have to leave it. We are out of time, but I thank you so much, Laura Eckley from Larchmont Library and Susan Riley from Mamaroneck Library.
Thank you so much for having us.
The book is I Am Malala. You can still participate in the One Book, One Mamaroneck program. Go to website of either of the libraries, and you'll find out where you can participate. And the libraries both have plenty of copies.
We do.
Yes, we do.
In print and audio.
Yes.
Thank you again, and stay tuned. There's more of the Local Live coming up real soon.
Hey guys, you're watching the Local Live. Stay tuned.
Woo!
Yeah.
This week in sports, the Mamaroneck girls soccer team broke a second-half tie by scoring 2 goals in the span of 1 minute. Freya Cantwell and Erin McClave both find the back of the net in the LMC Varsity Sports Play of the Week.
Corner, centered, gets through, defense, trying to play through, header, scores! Freya Cantwell got the head on it. 2-1 Tigers. momentum a bit more in their favor. That's Aaron McClave. McClave with some room, shot, scores! McClave with the slide on the shot, hit the far post. And just like that, 3-1 Mamaroneck.
I took LMC TV to the 14th annual pumpkin patch held at St. Thomas Church here in Mamaroneck. Residents experienced fall traditions while giving back to charity. Hey guys, this is Erica Lynn reporting from St. Thomas Church where the annual pumpkin patch has begun. There's over 3,000 pumpkins delivered from New Mexico. Why don't we go in and take a look? This past Friday evening, these specially harvested pumpkins were picked up from New Mexico and driven to St. Thomas Church in Mamaroneck. Why from so far away? 65-year-old church member and community outreach chair for St. Thomas explains.
This is one of our annual events that we do where we buy these pumpkins from the Navajo Indians in New Mexico, and this helps subsidize them for the year.
This outreach program collaborates with other Westchester County churches. Among them are St. John's in Larchmont, Trinity in New Rochelle, and All Saints in Harrison. Deacon Holly and Father Robert Gaylor describe the unloading of the gourds.
Oh, the pumpkins are very heavy, but we're very strong.
They're beautiful. They are, and each one is original and gorgeous.
I, of course, offer a helping hand.
It's time to work.
Each of the 4 churches gets a week with the patch to sell and raise proceeds. At the end of the month, the funds raised are combined and distributed evenly to their charity of choice. 3 weeks into the position as rector of St. Thomas Episcopal Church, Reverend Carol Gadsden introduces herself to the community and tells us more about the charities that are benefiting from this event.
And this year it's going to 2 things. It's going to Cancer Cares and it's going to the American Society for the Prevention of Suicide. It's delightful to make friends again with, get reacquainted with folks I knew from 25, 30 years ago. So that's pretty much the story. I have kids in New York and kids in Boston, and it makes it easier for them to get to visit, and I'm always delighted about that.
People of all ages of our community come to help unload the truck.
I'm helping put the pumpkins here. I just volunteered to help out because if more people volunteer, then the world will just be a better place.
I wanted to help out.
And what about you girls? The pumpkins are distributed by size and placed in the square marked. They are then priced according to the size, ranging anywhere from $2 to $25. Sexton of the church, Edgar Garza, is responsible for the 2-day setup. He's also the pumpkin security and tells of his 13-year experience.
I organize all these tents every year. I have helpers to put a yellow tape in the floor to make the square each number. So we work together with the volunteer.
So what happens to the leftover pumpkins?
The leftover go into the people who have horses. That's the enjoy when they come in to pick it up. After the 31st, it's free for everybody. Okay.
I think I found mine. This is Erica Lynn for the Local Live.
Erica, after watching that, a beautiful day to get you in the Halloween spirit, I must ask you one thing. Do you really work out with pumpkins?
All the time, Anthony. All the time.
In the light of election night, the Local Live went to the streets of Mamaroneck to find out if residents are well informed prior to casting their vote.
For the Village of Mamaroneck Board of Trustees, we're standing outside the Regatta Village offices, interviewing local residents to see if they know who's on the ballot and what a trustee does for your community. Do you know who's on the ballot for the Board of Trustees election coming up?
I guess George Latimer, Rob Astorino, Miller, Finch, and the last thing would be something like, I don't know, with an O in it, you know. I know Miller, Finch, something like that, you know.
I don't know exactly who is. I know John Hofstetter was running. Some people were off the board. Some people were on the board and resigning. It's so fluid in Mamaroneck.
Do you happen to know anyone who's on the ballot?
I don't actually. I'm embarrassed to say.
That's okay. Do you happen to know what a trustee might do?
Not sure. I mean, so I'm sure they have authority to dictate, what might happen, but not sure in detail.
Did you know that local elections are coming up on November 4th?
Yes.
Do you plan to vote in the local elections coming up on November 4th?
No, I wasn't planning on it.
Then on November 4th, that's when elections are being held at your local designation. Were you planning on voting?
Yes.
So you plan on voting for who's going to be on the ballot?
Yeah, of course.
You plan on voting for the Board of Trustees?
Yes, I do.
For those who don't know, according to New York State Village law, a trustee is elected to a 2-year term serving under the mayor, with 3 trustees on the board in total. The board as a whole is in charge of managing village and property finances, while serving as a legislature to ensure that the mayor is keeping the village's best interests at heart. November 4th is election night, and you can check your local designation to see where you can cast your vote. For the Local Live, I'm Mike Chandra, and I'll see you at the ballot.
You're watching the Local Live on LMC TV.
Meet Winston, a lovable and affectionate boy whose big brown eyes will melt your heart. Winston was in a high kill shelter in North Carolina, and like so many hounds down south, his time was up until SNARR rescued him.
Winston absolutely loves people, and he wiggles every time he sees kids and greets dogs with a tail wag. He's 2 years old, up to date on shots, chipped and ready to find his forever home. He would be a great addition to any family. So, for more information, contact Vanessa Moyo at vmuoio@hrg.net.
Well, unfortunately, we have reached the end of our show.
That's right, Erica, and I just want to give a big birthday shout out to Josh here, who's going to be turning 18. But tune in next Thursday for a special interview with Mamaroneck School Superintendent Dr. Robert Shaps.
And of course, if you've missed this broadcast, you can tune in any night this week at 7:30 p.m. to watch again. Channel 75 on Cablevision, 36 on Verizon. For LMC TV, I'm Erica Lynn.
And I'm Anthony Carlo. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Tell us what you think. In person, over the phone, online. Watch and hear yourself on TV. You tell us, we air it. This is the Local Live.